To the Red City, to Morocco and to Marrakech. In the background, the Atlas Mountains swathed in cloud, freshly snow-covered as snow fell on them during the early part of the week. There's a stiff breeze blowing here as we escape the oppressive heat of Great Britain to come to the desert for some blessed cool relief, and in fact a little bit of drizzle as well. Track temperature has plummeted from 34 15 minutes ago to 27 and continues to drop. Air temperature 23. I think that's a little ambitious. That might be being measured inside. We're getting ready for the second race here on the streets of Marrakech. Our main race will come up just about 30 minutes from now. Martin Haven and Harry Volkard watching the action with you down in the pit lane. Alex Le Gouy for the World Touring Car Television. And Harry, a little bit of damage to be repaired for some of the cars after a bruising opening lap, particularly in the opening race, where there was a little bit of over-ambition and a little bit of being caught out under braking.
Yeah, as you say, Martin, typical street circuit. There's a bit of wheel-to-wheel rubbing throughout the grid, especially in lap one. Not loads from that point onwards, but there was definitely in lap one. There's a few minor collisions, bumpers, a couple of rear bumpers, a couple of front bumpers, a couple of wheels. It'll be mainly things like tracking. We'll be checking, doing the usual service stuff, just checking fluid levels, making sure everything was square. There's a little bit of a bruise on the front of that Volvo that you can see there. Yeah,
Ted Björk got hit 2 or 3 times in the first corner and then fired off in the third corner by Nicky Katzberg, who as a result will start from the pit lane. And this is something I expect to see pretty much on all the cars, Harry, a brake change. They won't be absolutely brand new out of the box. They will hopefully have blued them, so put a bit of colour in, which gives them a little bit of a better surface to work with. But I imagine that everybody will be looking for fresh brakes on their cars because they do take a bit of a pounding here. That's Ivan Muller's car, damage on the front. That's where he hit Ted Björk in the first corner. And Jose Maria Lopez not free from damage either. He and Muller were bumping each other, and he bumped into race one winner Tom Coronel as well. It all broke loose at the start. James Thompson on pole from Ugo Valente. Björk didn't get away quickly. Muller got by Lopez, but here's the contact between Muller and Lopez, and that continued for another couple of corners. Watch the yellow Lada in second place, so Ugo Valente behind James Thompson out of corner one. And then James Thompson out of the lead into the wall on the first turn around, first time around corner 3. Valente then handed a drive-through penalty. Nicky Katzberg jumped the chicane, came up behind the Volvo, missed his braking at the next corner as well, clattered Ted Björk off. Katzberg later retired with damage. Björk damaged but kept going. Rob Huff and Gabriele Tarquini came to blows when Tarquini decided a little too late to relinquish the position. Björk and Filippi later retired as the wheel fell off his car. Ugo Valente serving a drive-through penalty, handed the lead to Tom Coronel. Behind him by this stage, Jose Maria Lopez, with Ivan Muller having to fend off Thiago Montero. It was then a nervous 20 laps for the Roal Motorsport team. A couple of incidents where Lopez got up into the back of Coronel like that on the penultimate lap. But Lopez knew he had much more to lose than gain by taking the lead illegally from Coronel. And Tom Coronel claimed victory for the first time since 2013.
When I came over to see Jimmy, he was just watching the replay of the opening race there. That was a bit of a short-lived lead. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, what can you say? I mean, you can only do the best you can, which is put the car in the pole position, get a good start, lead the race. The others you can't control, and I was very disappointed for the guys. Everybody was excited. It's been a couple of years since they had a pole position, so for us, it was only our second race meeting. It was a great chance for a result, but as you say, you can't do anything about other people. If you could, you'd be a very rich man.
Yeah, and so now looking ahead to the main race, looks like you've got people frantically working on your car. What's the damage and what's the likelihood of getting out?
Well, obviously we hit the wall pretty hard, so the boys have done a great job trying to fix the floor. Obviously on these cars these days with the flat floor and everything, it's very important, and it's moved quite a lot of the components underneath. So the guys are trying to fix it as best they can. But of course the other spanner in the works is the weather, so fantastic. We're in the desert and we've got rain, so must be all the British influence.
Yeah, probably. Best of luck, James.
Well, it's a blessed relief from the heat of the UK, isn't it? So, it's not necessarily going to be wet during the race, just to remind you that we don't start for another 30 minutes. However, Harry, when we were outside of the commentary position in the race control tower, you can see in the back of your shot there, 10 minutes ago it was just a few spits and spots. Now actually it is rain, and the real problem is it's been blowing in from the Mediterranean across Morocco. We've got the Atlas Mountains behind us. Basically that's a wall that is going to stop the weather blowing through easily, and is likely to mean that it's going to empty the clouds over us. So we could actually be in for quite a wet race here, and with the patchy tarmac on this new circuit, that's going to make life very hard for the drivers. Yeah, the last thing these guys will want is looking out the window and seeing this amount of rain come down. It's not peeing it down, but there's enough there to make the circuit wet. In fact, the circuit has just been declared wet, so it's wet enough to run on a wet tyre. But new circuits are always challenging when it gets damp, so we'll see how it goes.
Wet track declare now. Wet track declare now.
And in fact, I was talking to Mirek, our race director, about 20 minutes ago, and I said, when do you declare a wet track? And he said, well, there's the question. The answer is you can declare a wet track right up until you give the green flag at the end of the formation lap. Now, because the track is declared wet, it is possible they will get 2 formation laps. There has been no wet running. There was a wet pit walk, track walk on Thursday. It hailed, but they haven't been out on the track in the rain.
All sorts going on down here, but to try and grab Hugo. Your thoughts? We just had a chat to James, who unfortunately his race was ruined by a certain yellow human. Tell me what your thoughts are.
Well, first of all, I need to say sorry to James. I want to apologize straight away after the race to him and his team as well. I was surprised by how early he braked, but obviously the blame is on me, which is normal. I made a mistake. I brake on my usual point, and I should have braked earlier because it was the start. I ruined his race, and I ruined my race as well. So it's a big shame. I like James a lot, and I want to have a talk with him right after the race.
Good of you. Thank you, Hugo.
Well, at least he was pretty honest about that, and it was clumsy, and it wouldn't be the first time he's done something like that. But at least he was pretty honest and did his best to go and apologise. But I'm sure it doesn't really sit very well with the All Eagle team, because they were definitely on for a potential win there. Yeah,
I mean, it could have been a Chevrolet 1-2, and when was the last time we had one of those? So possibly last year, I'm not sure. But yeah, so, you know, Thompson had the best opportunity of anybody perhaps in the whole field to win the race, because he started the opening race from pole position on a track where nobody has raced up until that stage. They've practiced and qualified, but nobody knew where to overtake. Nobody really knew, you know, how to get by somebody in front. As it proved in race 1, that's going to be quite tricky unless the weather has a bit of a helping hand. Well, let's hear from the Volvo team and Ted Björk.
Ted, just want to have a chat to you about the opening race. You were biffed by a Citroen and biffed by Katzberg. Your car was pretty badly damaged. Were you aware of how badly damaged it was? You still seem to nurse it back.
No, it was quite bad actually, but I was surprised. The car is really good. I love my Volvo, so it was really nice that I could continue the race and keep going. So just happy to be out, you know, for the next race.
And just looking at your windows, obviously an awful lot of rain on there. It has been declared a wet race. What are your thoughts ahead of a street circuit like this in the wet?
It's going to be absolutely crazy.
Thank you, Ted.
See, I like the way that Ted Björk never has an opinion. Got a damaged exhaust at the back there. That was courtesy of Lopez, or possibly being backed into the tyres there. Nicky Katzberg's car suffered damage. See the wall cam takes a bit of a jump there as Björk goes in backwards.
Yeah, it was quite a big hit from the back there, but yeah, unfortunate again. But the Volvo team have done really well to be on the pace that they've been showing us at this point in the season. They've been very fast, and like Ted said there, it's going to be, these conditions on this circuit is going to be very, very challenging. There's lots of new surfaces, painted lines which were white have now been painted black. Nobody's run on it in the wet, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, the real drama may be in the first lap. We've got Lopez and Muller 4th and 5th. We've got Huff, Michelit and Montero 1st, 2nd and 3rd. It should be an all-Honda podium. The Hondas should get around the first lap without trouble. but it's not necessarily them hitting each other. It might be coming from behind. Spectators of all ages, shapes and sizes here at the Moulay Al Hassan circuit as we get ready to Björk in his car, now down on the ground. He's going to leave the pit lane without a spoiler on the back of the car because it is not ready yet. But it doesn't matter because actually he doesn't have to pass scrutineering to get to the grid. They can fit it when he's on the grid. There's 3 minutes left for him to get out of the pit lane, and what he wants to do now probably is actually drive around and maybe see, I don't know again whether he's on wets or slicks, but see what that feels like, because otherwise if he leaves at the last minute he's got no chance to come through the pits and do another lap to the grid. So wing or no, I don't know. I'm not sure if he's going to stop immediately on the grid or try a drive through the
I think he'll have to stop on the grid, and if he needs to change tyres, he'll do that on the grid as well. But there's no spray coming off the cars on the circuit at the minute.
No.
I'm not seeing anything, but it will be mega slicky. So it may be that the wet tyre will be the confidence-inspiring shot. You know, certainly early laps unless it carries on raining. But I don't know, it's a tough call.
The only slight problem is 22 laps is going to be hard work on the tyre.
Yeah, I think the wet bar is the right one at the moment. The wet one is the right one.
And you've got up to the 5-minute board to bail out of whatever option you've got, Harry. So not 5 minutes now till the pit lane closes, but when they're on the grid for another 15 minutes, they can still have second thoughts. They can still gamble and go away from what instinct is telling them now. If it gets wetter or if it stops, then imagine we'll see some tyre changes at last minute.
Yeah, and that was Huffy saying on the team radio there that the wet tyre is the right choice at the moment. Obviously, that's very dependent on what carries on with the weather. If it's going to keep raining, then that'll be the obvious one, and you'll have locked in. But if it stops, it'll dry up pretty quickly because it's pretty humid. The track temperature has dropped a lot since it started to rain, but it's still 27 degrees, which is warm. You know, if you put it
warm enough.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, if the air temperature was 27, we'd be complaining about it a bit, like people are at home. But there's a lot of power to be put through two fairly narrow tyres for a lot of corners, a lot of traction areas, a lot of braking, a lot of accelerating, not a lot of high-speed corners, not a lot of big, hairy, hang-on, ballsy turns. So traction is really at a premium here, more than at somewhere even like Hungary, and certainly more than the really wet Paul Ricard. So, you pays your money, you takes your choice. Yeah, Huffy's sort of in a position where actually he can gamble more than anybody else, because all he's got to do is somehow survive the opening couple of laps and pray that the weather doesn't really dramatically go one way or the other.
Well, I think if you're a Honda, you're going to go on, looking out the window, it's still raining, I think you've got to go on the wet. Those three guys at the front can control the race from up there. Maybe it'd be a punt if you're a bit further down the grid to go for a slick, but personally I think I'd stick, if I was Huffy, I'd stick with the wet.
So there is the wingless boot lid being removed from Ted Björk's car. See the sticker on it where it was sealed when in Parc Fermé. And in the background, in the dark blue jacket, Manel, our chief scrutineer, just making sure that the car is legal, decent and truthful before it leaves the grid, because you want to make sure that the guys start off with a legal car. What you really don't want is to have to be telling them afterwards that they finished without a legal car.
Yeah, and that obviously when it's gone, it's reversed into the wall there when you got knocked off.
Yeah,
it's you can see the guys are working with what looks like a pop rivet gun or something to try and mount a new mount on it or something, because even here you probably wouldn't really need that rear wing because it's not a big downforce circuit, but like you said, part of the rules, it has to start in a compliant fashion.
Well, also it'll massively affect the amount of grip that you've got on the back of the car, and in these conditions that might be an issue as well. They're just telling Mehdi to take his feet off the brake pedal, which presumably means that they're not doing wheels up at the moment, they're doing something else. Presumably they didn't get his brake change finished. Larder of Nicky Katzberg will start from the pit road. So although he's done a formation lap, he now comes back into the closed pit lane. And this is a penalty for firing off Ted Björk on lap 1.
Yeah, they had to remove the car from Parc Fermé as well, so they had a misfire problem at high revs. I was talking to Dave Scott, as Katzberg's engineer, and obviously he's got that penalty as well for the incident with the Volvo. So starting from the pit lane, but it's not the worst thing that could happen, especially with the current conditions. I'm guessing the first couple of laps are going to be pretty slow, so we'll see him in the back of the pack fairly quickly.
time for calm heads, isn't it? You've got to work fast, but you've got to work efficiently. And so the Volvo guys, exactly as suggested, Harry, are riveting on a mounting bracket so that they can use the press fasteners in the top of the hood, push them in, twist them quarter of a turn, and they'll hold. Katzberg's gone off for a comfort break. No point in sitting in the car longer than you need to, as we get ready to race here in Morocco. Crowds and cars on the grid in Marrakech. Ferenc Fitcher, closest to us, bottom right-hand side of your corner, or corner of your screen, starts 16th, 15th position for Grégoire de Moustier, Belgian driver in his Citroën, French driver rather, in his Citroën, run by Sébastien Loeb Racing, same as Tom Chilton, same as Mehdi Banani. And there can't be anybody, Harry Folkard, can there? Really going to gamble? The problem is, it's wet now, it demands a wet tyre, there's no guarantee it's going to stay wet, no guarantee equally that it's going to dry up. So you've just got to go with wets, because you've got to survive.
And it's come down a lot since the guys have been on the grid there. You can see it around the cars underneath them. There's the colour difference in where it's dry underneath the car and wet around it. So even in the last 5 minutes or so, it's come down heavily.
Well, the grandstands are a lot more populous than they were half an hour ago, because everybody who was walking around in the paddock area, looking and checking out all the action, has now dashed for a bit of shelter. It hailed on Thursday. Rob was out doing his track walk, and he sheltered halfway around the circuit. There was a security guard there who was picking up hail off the ground and looking at it in utter bemusement. What on earth is this? And that's the sort of week of weather they've been having here. Anybody who's come for a bit of a holiday in the next few days, I'm afraid, is probably going to get very wet on the links. Tom Chilton starting in 11th position.
Yeah, I blame global warming for all this. It must be all this motorsport that's doing it.
Well, it's following us around all season with the World Touring Car Championship, isn't it? So if you're planning to go on holiday, check the WTCC calendar and go somewhere else. Gabriele Tarquini, that's a beard, isn't it? Yeah. Eyebrows all the way down. Is that actually what it looked like? I didn't notice that.
It's a good bit of facial topiary if that is what it looks like.
Hello, Lewis Hamilton, are you looking? that out, Lewis, that out pimps any beard I think I've seen in any social media situation. James Thompson, well, the chance to win the opening race from pole position was there. Unfortunately, through no fault of Tomo's, he got as far as corner 3 as the leader. Didn't get out of corner 3 as the leader. It's a real shame for Tomo on his return to the championship at the last track at which he raced last season for Lada. It's a real shame for All Inkle and Dominic Greiner and all the guys at Munich Motorsport, and for René Munich, the team boss, who was rally crossing in Hockenheim today, because a win for them would have been as important and as joyous as a win was for Royal Motorsport. In fact, Dominic came over and I was chatting to Tom Coronel after the race to applaud him. He said, congratulations, and Tom said, I'm sorry, it was your trophy.
Yeah, it was.
And you know, and it was.
And it was a clumsy move by Volante, that's the disappointing thing, because he said that he braked early, but when you watch the onboard footage, I'm not sure it was that much early. I think in truth, Volante locked up, because you can hear it from the onboard footage, and he just biffed him basically. I think he just totally missed his own braking point, and like we said before, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen him cost someone a race, and it's a little bit frustrating. And to make things worse, he's then gone on from being pretty unpopular for firing James Thompson off to he then went out and set the fastest lap.
Yes.
Which then means Lada are going to have extra success.
That'll make him unpopular with the team. Well, Ted Bjerg was the collateral damage in the battle between Ivan Muller and Jose Maria Lopez. Lopez had got ahead of Muller at the start. Bjerg was in front of Lopez, but Muller was steaming up the inside, and Lopez was just determined to shut the door hard on Muller, even if it meant hitting Bjerg, which he did. Then the next 3 corners, he and Muller were wheel to wheel, banging doors with each other, until eventually out of turn 3, Lopez managed to get the upper hand and never looked back. But Bjerg was a bit of collateral damage there. You know, Lopez knows that he's got to beat everybody to win this championship. Muller knows that he's got to beat Lopez to win this championship. There's no question in either of their minds that that is their biggest target, although when you look at the points, actually Ivan down in 5th position and losing ground again to Lopez. He's got problems with Montero and Mikulits and Huff and Benani, as well as with Lopez. It is not cut and dried this season like we thought it might be. We still have the Argentine as our points leader. He has led at the end of every single race weekend since he started his full-time career. Let's hear from Lopez. Final thoughts?
Montero on flick. What do you think about the start? Do you prefer rolling start behind the safety car or a normal start?
Well, I know that Citroën wrote the rules, but are we now allowing them to decide how the start is going to be?
Yeah.
Hopefully not, no. They will have 2 formation laps. It's not raining hard enough to start behind the safety car.
No, that doesn't seem quite right. You know, it shouldn't. It is wet, but it's not.
That was just a random question, wasn't it? What would you prefer? It's not like you have the choice. You will have 2 formation laps because there's been no wet track running, and we will have a standing grid start as per. I don't see any reason whatsoever that the conditions are bad enough to demand a safety car, so I can't see Mirek requiring that either. Bruno Correa won't be leading them round.
Well, I think he will be at some point, but maybe not.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, we've not had a red flag or a safety car required so far in World Touring Car action at any stage. Well, here is our pole man then, Rob Huff. We will have a straightforward starting procedure unless something dramatic happens on the formation laps. Rob Huff will lead the field away. And I'm sure, as has been the case in the past, that we will see them go for 2 formation laps before they come to the grid, because that is in the rules. That if the cars have not run on a wet track, they have to have at least 2 sighting laps. Rob Huff, Norbert Michelitz and Thiago Montero. Honda 1, 2, 3, and then Lopez and Muller. It's going to be battle joined right on the run down to the first corner. There's no question Lopez and Muller will be trying to get in amongst the Hondas and disrupt their battle plan. And from behind, Coronel Björk, Ugo Valente, James Thompson, Gabriele Tarquini, Tom Chilton, Mehdi Benani may be trying to take advantage of the conditions and find a little bit of move himself back up the order. He and Chilton finished 8th and 9th in the first race, so they both scored points, and they're another spot further forward this time. Their Citroëns are quick here, and they have at least as much grip as the front-running cars, so could be a very entertaining race.
Between the two, between Montero and Michelitz, I think I'd rather start where Montero is, because if he can get onto the back of Huff into turn 1, it's a long left, he'll be able to follow him all the way around there. Then you've got a series of fairly light right-handers into another left, which then is breaking into a third left. So anybody on that left-hand side of the grid into turn 1, you can really hold people out to dry on the outside, which is what we saw Lopez do to Muller. The
only problem for Thiago is that everybody will be trying to fire it up the inside, and by everybody, I mean Muller and Lopez, especially Muller, who's to be trying to get up the inside of Lopez again into that first corner. Huff penalty? Don't think so. Katzberg penalty. That's what we're looking at. Look how much water's standing on the pit apron, having come off the roof of this building, though. There's Dave Scott, making sure that everything is plugged in, the external battery. Keep the door closed as well. Don't want water swilling around in the electrics. Well, we would have hoped to hear from Rob Huff about the conditions, but understandably, I think he would rather be in contact with the team or left alone to his own thoughts on this formation lap.
Yeah, because this is the first time, obviously, they're going to see where the traction's at, because all these different surfaces, it's going to be total experimentation on this lap. Is it faster on the outside? Is it going to be a wet line? Is it a dry line? You know, who knows?
Well, now, again, for Huffy, because he's got no one in front of him who might get hit, he can actually try a full-bore racing start. Nobody else can. And now they're all... See, now they all need to give each other a bit of room, because if they miscalculate where they're braking and they're trying to just push a little bit to get a feeling for what little grip might be out there, what you don't want is to cannon into the back of somebody on the formation lap.
I think this first lap is going to be fraught with potential incidents, because we saw it in the dry. Nobody knows where to brake in the wet here, so it's going to be the first time everyone finds out whether they brake too late is on that opening lap. You know, this isn't, they're not obviously nowhere near it racing speed here, so if you're following the guy in front and he brakes too late and goes straight on and you brake in the same place, you'll follow him.
Well, you say they're nowhere near racing speed. I wonder whether they are actually close to racing speed or not. We've got no idea what little grip there might be available. Now, I am here, I've just double-checked. I'm hearing there will only be a single formation lap. That is not normally the way these things work. If you've not had dry running, normally 2 formation laps are mandatory, but if they're going with 1, we will wait and see when Huffy gets the line, whether he comes steaming through or whether he pulls up. He's not too far away now either. We're already turn 10. You can see, look, this big block in the middle of old paint covered over by black paint. That'll be like glass.
The change of surface on the back straight, Dario, is pretty dangerous. As the change of surface in turn 6. You have no idea what you're going to get, and the paint is seriously slippery. Like 0.
Yeah, that's indicative of it, isn't it? You know, these surface changes, and Rob's not scared of things, and for him to say that things are dangerous on the straights, let alone in the corners.
Every motorcycle racer knows that when it's wet, you do not ride over the white bits of a zebra crossing or on any painted lines, because they are like glass. Now, the problem is the painted lines here aren't white. They've been painted over with black paint. So they're not as visible, but they are just as glassy. Now, Rob is coming to a halt, so there is only a single formation lap to try and guess the grip levels on a street circuit. That seems to me to be not enough. Cars on the grid on the street circuit of Marrakech. The main race, round 4 of the World Touring Car Championship. It is very wet. Hugo Vallant starts from the pit on the right. Rob Huff on pole, on the left, Corbett Mikulic. But 4th on the grid, Jose Maria Lopez. You can see his red nose. He is not in his pit box. He has started out of his pit box. Honda can protest that and have him handed a drive-through penalty. Huff has got to lead this into the first corner, and Montero and Mikulic have to allow Muller to battle Lopez. They have got to survive the first 3 or 4 corners without the Citroens getting through. Montero might be the one who's in trouble here, because Lopez is alongside him and goes through. Montero will have the inside line, but Lopez has completed the pass already. He's picked off one of the Honda trio, but you pointed it out silently off air, he was not in his grid box. That is a drive-through penalty. It has been in the past.
And you can see why he did it, because on his right-hand side, his front wheel was on a painted line, so he's obviously pulled left of the grid box to get more traction. But as you say, Martin, he was out of his grid box, and that's not okay.
If I was Dario Desposito, I would already have the protest in with Mirek, our race director. You can see how much water there is in the air down the back straight. They're not going an awful lot quicker than they were in the formation lap. Ted Björk picks up a place in the background from Gabriele Tarquini, or retakes a place from, was that Tarquini or Valente? Looks like Tarquini. And Muller drifting out a little wide in the second in the red Citroens. Then Tom Coronel holding everybody up. Now, Mikulic has got to be a rear gunner for himself and for Huff, because if he allows Lopez to get clear, or to get close rather, then Lopez may well pick him off.
Yeah, and it's, you think Mikulic might try and, well, not just that he's not doing it now, but he may try and push. They know Muller's not as quick.
Trouble in the background, lots of yellow cars running out wide. I think Coronel lost several positions. Coronel was 6th. And in the background, there's a Lada come through in front with damage on the nose. Don't know who it is. He had a bit of bodywork on that's flown off. So there was trouble behind.
That'll be Vallant, I think.
Or Tarquini. Not sure. It won't be Katzberg anyway, having started. If it's Katzberg, then I don't know where he found a shortcut. Well, Huff and Mikulic now have really got to let this settle down. The Citroens don't look like they've got the grip that the Hondas have.
No, from the rear end, both those Citroens are breaking away quite readily, aren't they, in the middle of the corner?
Well, that's good news for Thiago, isn't it? You know, he got jumped at the start. The Citroens' greater acceleration, better traction worked for him. James Thompson down the inside of Tom Chilton, former Vauxhall drivers. And through goes Thompson. He picks off Chilton for 10th. Coronel is 9th. It is Valente and Tarquini who are 6th and 7th. Ahead of Bernani from 13th on the grid. Wow, Bernani must have had a good opening lap.
Yeah, that's mega. He's obviously found the shortcut somewhere.
Yeah. local knowledge.
Yeah.
Of a track that nobody's raced on before. Doesn't exist. There is no shortcut. That was just a great start. And Bernani keeping his nose dry. You know, he had a tough time in qualifying. The car was kind of quick enough in free practice. Then they made a change for qualifying. It wasn't better. Thompson trying to come around Coronel. Coronel defending, but Jimmy T with a bit of a run on him there. Coronel doesn't allow him to get close enough.
Coronel's got quite a lot of damage on the back there, and it looks like Ballon yet again has more damage on the front of his car.
Yeah. Well, now, you see, where Bernani was coming through, I'm not sure it was necessarily the Lada that outbraked itself into Coronel. I have a feeling there was a bit of a concertina effect going on from behind. Whatever it is, Coronel has lost several places, and he's now come back towards Jimmy Thompson, who's coming forwards. Is it raining as hard as it was? We're seeing purple sectors now, which means that the cars, the drivers probably, are finding a little more grip or getting used to the lack of grip and starting to speed up. Dominic Greiner watching Jimmy Thompson.
Bit of understeer there from Jimmy.
Yeah, he's in 10th, which is where he started. And the problem here is there is a bit of rubber on line. There's a lot of dirt and oil and so on, oil from the tarmac offline. There's not very much grip anywhere. And look at the surface just in front of the camera there. That's all black paint. Coronel meandering down the straight. So is Thompson as they hit that black paint. Battle for 9th and 10th position. The two Chevrolets, Tom Coronel, the yellow car, black car of James Thompson. They are slowly losing touch with the Ladas and the Citroën in front. Citroën in front, you can see the red, white and green of Morocco and the car Mehdi Bernani again. Thompson with a really good run out of corner 10, and this is where Coronel was weak in the first race. Remember, we used to see that Lopez was all over the back of him down that back straight.
Coronel's, I would imagine Thompson's probably got Coronel there. He seemed to turn in a little bit later and got a real good launch off the corner.
Let's hold the shot, shot. Bernani didn't see it, no. Coronel held off Thompson, who's now under threat from Tom Chilton. The problem was Jimmy T was going to have to go the long way around the outside into that left-hand 90-degree corner 11, and that was always going to be a tough ask unless Tom let him go. Tom's not really inclined to let him go, I don't think.
No, you're right.
In race 1, he wouldn't have taken him out to stop him winning, but that was race 1. That's all done and dusted. This is race 2. Thompson getting away, Coronel rather, getting away from Thompson, who now has to deal with Tom Chilton. So it's going to be the same deal here for Jimmy Thompson that it was for Coronel in the first race, trying to hold off Lopez, is that the Citroën has got very strong low-speed acceleration and traction, particularly out of corner 10 down the little back straight.
Tomo's mega through sector 2, as is Coronel as well, though. So I think obviously he's lost that pace to Chilton. Chilton's caught him as a result of that attempt to pass on Coronel, but look, he's already closing back into Coronel.
Yes, he is. Starting to move away from the Citroën. The Volvo behind is Ted Björk. Look again at start, not a great getaway from Norbert Michelitz. Looks like it was even worse for Thiago Lopez once more. Whatever gearing they're using on the Citroën this weekend really works at low speed. Look, Muller got inside him, and Lopez just kept his calm. That was Fredrik Ekblom out braking himself at the first turn. No contact there. Lopez, little run with Montero. Thiago desperately trying to keep the overlap into the braking area, but Lopez braked desperately late and still held it.
That little clip as Lopez tried to come back left, it actually turned him a little bit and kind of managed to force him in front of where he was before.
Yeah, it helped rotate the car though, as he was getting in late on the brakes almost. Well, you just saw Bernani as well there, trying to get down the inside of Tarquini, and they are still nose to tail. Tarquini 7th, Bernani 8th. As the race settles down, Huff and Michelitz are going away a little bit from Lopez. So again, like race 1, here we go for Lopez. What's the deal here? Your biggest championship rival, your closest championship rival is Thiago Montero, and he is behind you. Ivan Muller is behind him. The only guys that are going to outscore him at the moment are further back than Montero, Michelitz and Huff. All right, if conditions change and the race comes to you, then you can start to attack. Right now, we're on lap 5. We've done 5 laps and 22.
Oh, he's run wide.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Now is not the time to make a mistake. Montero gets alongside and shows no mercy. I was just going to say, this is the time now for Lopez to really consolidate that third place, take no risks, and see how the race plays out. As it is, just an indication there, although it looks fairly pedestrian because nobody's banging wheels, these cars are being driven right on the edge of adhesion.
And it's so slippery that it can just be like turning in on a line that you missed the previous lap or you haven't found, or braking on, because every single lap they're going faster and faster as the track slightly dries and they're learning where the grip is. But we just saw Lopez just run a little bit deep there, and a little bit of understeer, and through goes Montero.
Yeah, and onto a wetter bit of track that has less grip than the less wet racing line does. I mean, it's still raining, the racing line is still damp, there's no question about that. There might just be a little bit more grip there. Huff and Michelitz, first and second, starting to pull away. We're now back to Honda 1, 2, 3.
Michelit's half a second faster than Huff on that last lap, but I'm sure they won't give each other too much trouble.
No, Norby's not going to do anything stupid. And we talked about this in the first race, you know, with your teammate as Coronel drifts out very wide in turn 3. Jimmy T trying to get a run on the inside, down to the hairpin, or the chicane rather. Hasn't got an overlap, has to tuck in behind.
It's going to bring Chilton back into the mix as well.
Well, great game of cat and mouse between them. Well, it allowed Thompson to close right up. I don't think it's allowed Chilton to close up that much. What's the gap from Bernani? 2.6 seconds. Starting to grow a little. And Montero with Lopez trying to find that traction out of turn 10. It's not working for him the way it worked against Coronel, is it? The Honda picks up its skirts and walks away there from the Citroën, and you don't see that very often, and that's de Moustier. He's gone off on the exit of the chicane, and he's lost the engine, or clanged the barriers. It's a tyre wall there, and that's the replay of Lopez just getting in a tiny bit deep. Ooh, was that because he had a bit of a...
Yeah, he was,
lunge at Norby.
I think he just locked up. I think he hit there's a bit of a different patch of the circuit, and he locked up, and it looked like he was quite close to hitting Michelitz, but I don't think it was too close.
Montero now sets the fastest race lap. Valente goes out wide. Gabrielli won't have any of that coming back up the inside. Hugo, come on! I mean, I know there wasn't a lot of room there, but there was enough room not to be hitting Gabrielli, you know. You've gone out wide, you're on the paint, you know what's going to happen, you know Gabrielli's there, you know he's going to run out wide.
Yeah, maybe should have yielded, but...
Should have lifted a fraction.
Both these guys like a little bit of a road, didn't they?
I know. You were right about Chilton, obviously. The racing driver's eye spots it. Coronel, Thompson and Chilton as one now, and Tom is struggling for traction, isn't he?
Yeah, Coronel's holding Thompson up now, and Thompson's going to probably have to force the issue if he's not careful.
Debris on the exit of turn 1. It's Lada bits and bobs, isn't it? That's the exit of turn 10. There's a green flag there, and that may well be that de Moustier has sort of crawled around and died in the corner there. Not him, obviously, but his car. Not quite sure whether he's made it out. He's still going, not showing much. He's in sector 1.
Montero, fastest lap of the race last time round.
And he's closing up on his teammates, but importantly, pulling away from Lopez and trying to make sure that Lopez can't get back to him.
That was a good lap as well.
Yeah. Now the difference will only be 3 points, but it's 3 points that might be vital later on in the season in Montero's favour. Thompson is now, sorry, Tomo is now starting to get a bit frustrated, I think, not being able to get by Tom. Because Tom Chilton right behind, Coronel and Chilton teammates last year. Oh, and Tomo drifts out a little wide, and the Citroen's got good traction on the inside. Luckily, the next corner is a long right, but then hard braking episode and into a left-hander, so Tomo needed to get his nose back in front, or his tail back in front, and he does. Fitzia and Ekblom, this is for 15th, and the young Hungarian has just gone by the Volvo driving veteran Swede. So whatever else, we know that the Zengo Motorsport Honda has got some grip. This is only his 3rd race weekend for Ents. And Fredrik Ekblom, runner-up in last year's Swedish Touring Car Championship, to his teammate who's just in front, Ted Björk. What is the gap? They were 4 seconds apart. Looks like more than that on this lap, but so Coronel still hanging on to 9th place. Doesn't really want to let Thompson go because it's a few less points in the Independence Championship, the Yokohama, or the World Touring Car Trophy rather. And Bernani in front is scoring maximum points at the moment. He's already the points leader. Rob Huff, fastest race lap, 1:33.4. And Bernani up the road to the tune of about 5 seconds now. No, less than that. Just under 3 seconds ahead of Coronel.
Like I say, this suits Coronel quite nicely, actually. I know Bernani is ahead, but it pushes Chilton a little bit further behind him. Because Thompson's not in for the full season, it basically gives him a little buffer and takes a few more points away from Chilton.
Katzberg out of the pit lane, where he started, and up to 13th, attacking John Philippi for 12th. Philippi 4th in the WTCC trophy at the moment, or in this race at any rate. The only problem for Coronel is if he doesn't let Tomo by, Bernani will go further up the road, and a mistake from Michelitz. Drifts out wide, and suddenly Montero has to worry about where Norby's going and what Lopez is doing. And Lopez now, this is the sniff of blood in the water that he needs to try and attack the Hondas in front once more. Right on the back bumper of Thiago, his closest championship rival.
That looked almost a carbon copy of what Lopez did, didn't it? Just slightly deep in, runs a little bit wide, a bit of understeer where he really needs it not to be, and pushed him out a little bit wide, cost him quite a big chunk of time there.
More spray in the air to my eye, Harry, on the front straight. It looks like it's actually starting to get considerably wetter in the last lap or so. It does. Maybe just on this bit of track.
Some people are still doing their personal best, although that was a previous lap round, so if in the last lap it has started to come down a little bit heavier.
Well, last lap, Lopez set the fastest first sector of all, but it definitely looks a lot wetter on the pit straight, and maybe it's further back up to corner 10 as well. Maybe it is wetter, definitely. Maybe they got more rain on corner 10, and that's what caught Norby out, although he has just set the fastest first sector of the race. So they are still, the top three, all setting personal bests and race bests first sectors on this lap.
It certainly looks like the rain's still coming down hard, but maybe the guys are just finding a little bit of finding where the grip is and using that better to their advantage.
Well, they're 10 laps into their fuel allocation as well, so the car is a little less lardy with fuel. Maybe that makes a difference. My thinking here for Coronel is, if you let Tomo go, slipstream behind him up the straight, work together as two. At the moment, they're holding each other up. If the faster car's in front, they might catch Bernani. Tomo might get by. Sticky nose in the door. Well, it's a moot point now because Coronel runs out of grip and Thompson goes through. So now Coronel has to hold off Chilton, who is a rival in the WTCC trophy, and Tom sends it down the inside. So
Coronel had to let him go there, didn't he?
Yeah. Defended too long, Tom, didn't he?
Yeah, good opportunist move from Chilton, though. Look, that's just that surface change, you know, the back just broke away from him.
Yeah.
There's not a lot he can do there apart from sitting.
Well, he's always struggling for grip there. Now, can Chilton get by? So, Coronel, our opening race winner, loses 2 spots. Can Chilton get by Thompson and start to attack his own teammate, Mehdi Bernani? Norbert Michelis sets another fastest race lap, 1:33.11. The Hondas, personal best laps for Michelitz and Montero, and Huff a personal best first sector again on this lap. So although it looks wetter down the front straight, clearly they are still finding grip.
Yeah, interestingly, the Citroens look like they're struggling in these conditions more so than the Hondas. As you say, the top 3 Hondas are trading fastest sector times, constantly putting their own personal bests in, but we're not seeing anything like that from Lopez or Muller, or actually any of them.
Last lap, Huffy was the slowest of the Hondas with a 33.6. The faster of the 2 Citroens was Lopez with a 33.9. So he lost 0.3 to Huff, and the other 2 cars were quicker than Huffy.
You see Chilton's back end squirreling around there on the lines. That's where it looks, the rear end looks real nervous on the Citroen.
Yeah. James Thompson now in 9th position. Mehdi Bernani was 4.7 seconds up the road at the end of the previous lap, lap 10. Lap 11 now completed. Leaders on lap 12. Tom Chilton's headlights flashing away. Sure, that's going to affect Jimmy T too much. He's now head down and charging and perhaps ruining the lost time when he could have been trying to close down Mehdi Benani 6-7 laps ago.
Personal best sector 2 time there as well. Pretty much the same as Rob Huff's sector 2 on that same lap.
Well, it'll be interesting now to see Benani comes across the line at the end of the lap. Last lap for him was a 35.7, James Thompson a 35.3, so 0.4 of a second. Thompson not really defending against Tom Chilton, who set a 35.6. So Tomo with clear track in front of him, really free to try and just charge up to... And again, you know, like with Coronel, it might have been better to let Thompson through early, not over-defend and try and go with him. And I think maybe the deal now for Tom Chilton, although Thompson effectively is invisible for points, he's not, because he will take points away from Chilton. What Chilton's got to do is go with Tomo until and unless they catch Benani, follow him. Well, let's hear what Norby's got to say in the middle of the Honda trio.
Is it possible for Rob to go faster?
Is it possible for Rob to go faster? If it was, he might, do you think? I don't know. He's just set another personal best first sector, Rob Huff, but the rest of the lap, not so much. Personal best final sector, so Rob Huff just does a 33.2, Norby a 33.4, Thiago a 33.4. So, yes, thank you, Norby. It is possible for Huffy to go quicker. And the question there was because Norby is worried that Thiago and he are getting backed up towards Lopez, isn't he?
Yeah, he just wants to put a bit of clear air between them and the Citroen, I guess. But it's also that inter-team battle as well. Norby will want to, you know, he wants to beat Huffy at the end of the day, despite them being teammates. So any points he can score whenever he can. If he feels he can go faster, then he probably needs to push up on the back of Huff and show the team that rather than maybe ask the question. But yeah, I mean, they also need to play it sensibly as well. There's no point in those three. They're fairly safe where they are now. They don't need to be trying to have an inter-team race when all they're risking doing is going off.
Poor old Zoe is dying 1,000 deaths in the garage watching Jimmy T. He is pulling away, though, from Tom Chilton. He's dealt with the pace of the Citroen. On board with Nicky Katzberg, 12th place. That's Coronel's car in front. Katzberg is a long way back, though. Lots of rain, lots of spray on the streets of Marrakech. This is the third wet race weekend we have had in 4 weekends so far. We've had 5 different winners from our 7 races so far. Jose Maria Lopez, the only multiple race winner. He's won 3 times. He was second in our opening race here. Rob Huff won once. He won the opening race in Le Castellet, Circuit Paul Ricard. He's on target at the moment to add a second victory to his tally, and that will help to close him up in the championship standing as well. He came in here in 4th position in the standings. In fact, he is 8 points behind Mehdi Benani, and at the moment, he will move up a spot ahead of the Moroccan driver. But Lopez is not done yet. Harry Folkard still attacking hard, still pushing with everything he's got. Yeah,
he needs to keep the pressure on because that's how you force them into making a mistake. If he just backed off now, the 3 Hondas would just go away and do their own thing. But him being there, him still pushing, makes them have to keep pushing as well. So that's how you cause an unforced error, which is ultimately how Lopez has ended up back in 4th from 3rd position ahead of Montero.
And most of all, of course, the one Honda he's most likely to force an error from is the most important one at the moment, the one who's closest in points, Thiago Montero, who's right in front of him. Yeah, and we've already heard the Michelet-Huff situation where Michelet is asking if Huff can go any faster. If Lopez was 5 seconds behind them, then that wouldn't even be it wouldn't even be worth bringing up on the radio, you know? Yeah, and Lopez, Muller is already nearly over 6 seconds behind Lopez, but Lopez is 8/10 behind, or was 8/10 behind on the last lap, Thiago Montero. That gap goes out by another couple of tenths. Look how fast Nicky Katzberg's pulling in Tom Coronel, by the way. 2 laps ago, he was a straight in front. Coronel is really, really struggling.
Yeah, he is. He's having major problems. But we spoke about it actually earlier on. He's running 7 degrees of toe out across his rear axle, so that's absolutely huge, and that won't be very much fun in these conditions.
But it's 7 degrees on each wheel. It's 14 degrees of total toe out. That's an astonishing figure. I mean, that's more than you would normally find on the front of a front-wheel drive race car by quite some margin.
Lopez he's really on it now. He put the fastest final sector in on the previous lap. He's now just done the fastest first sector on this lap. He's lapping at the same, well, slightly faster than Montero, so he is really applying the pressure now.
Katzberg attacking Coronel for 11th, but Lopez is all over the back of Montero for 3rd place. The Honda driver will be under real pressure. Tomo
can smell blood as well. He's dropped that gap from 4 seconds to 2.4 seconds.
Okay, we really don't want to see this battle, entertaining as it is, because Lopez is all over the back of Thiago Montero. Tom Chilton just sets the fastest first sector. So maybe the track is starting to dry again.
It's coming back to the Citroens now. Hondas were walking away with fastest sector times, individual personal bests everywhere, but we're now seeing the Citroens coming back into their own, so maybe you're right, perhaps the drying line is benefiting the Citroen a little bit.
Katzberg versus Coronel for 11th, no points at stake. Coronel in a car that is frankly looking a bit of an evil handful. I bet he's glad it didn't handle like this in the opening race when he was leading in the wet. It was dry when he was leading, and that would have been a very different kettle of fish for him and the Roal Motorsport team. Gabriele Tarquini, fastest final sector of the lap. That's the 11-12 and across the starting line sector. Lopez, another personal best. Muller, personal fastest lap of the race. So Muller has brought himself closer to contention.
Lopez down to almost half a second from the back of Montero now. Look, he's all over the back of him.
Thank you. Well, there was a brief view of the leaders. Muller is closing up. Muller, purple first sector as well. So the top 5 are 4 of our top 5 in the championship, 5 of our top 6. And our opening race winner, Tom Coronel, trying to hang on to 11th position ahead of Nicky Katzberg. Katzberg gets very deep into the chicane. Just managed just to get it stopped up. This is quite frustrating, Harry, for the driver behind. He's got more pace, but nowhere really to use it, and he's going to have to wait till Coronel drifts offline and makes another error, and sooner or later that is going to come.
Yeah, and we can see the 2 drying wheel tracks everywhere now as well, so it's going to make, you know, a move off that line even more difficult than it was at the start of the race.
The question now is whose wet tyres are tired and whose aren't. Huffy still leading, but more purple sectors from Lopez and Muller in the Citroens.
Okay, the last time that was racing against 33.4 and I've just done a 33.3. Why is Norby on my arse for the done?
Well, Norby is right up his exhaust pipe because he wants to get away from Thiago to give Thiago room to manoeuvre, because Lopez is half a car length behind the 3rd of the Hondas. I know Rob is feeling the pressure, but at the moment I don't think he's feeling the pressure as much as Thiago. Svetlana preparing her report for the Lada team as Katzberg has gone through. So he's up to 11th. And Gabriele Tarquini, Ugo Valente in 6th and 7th. This is where it happened. Sure enough, Tom just ran out of grip again at turn 10. That's really been the Achilles heel of that car all weekend, Harry, wet or dry.
Yeah, it's been breaking into there, and he's struggled with traction off that corner, but been awesome pretty much everywhere else. And weirdly, that is in sector 2 where he was so quick in the dry. So.
Yeah. Whatever else with the setup between free practice and race day, it didn't affect turn 10 very well. Top 4 is still a breakaway group. Rob Huff leads, Norbert Michelis, Thiago Montero, Jose Maria Lopez. If Muller on his own in 5th position, he's 6 seconds behind the leaders and 4 ahead of Gabriele Tarquini, who just set the fastest race lap. Tarquini with his teammate Ugo Valente now 3 or 4 seconds behind him. So Tarquini's blazing his own trail. And then Mehdi Benani, the top WTCC trophy driver, he's leading the standings and he's leading that little race as well in 8th place. James Thompson, though, has taken 2 seconds out of him in the last 4 laps. And there are 6 remaining, including this one.
I think Tomo must have just made a mistake on that lap because he was down to 1.7 behind him. He's now dropping 2.7, so he's lost a second man.
So he had closed the gap down from 6 to under 2, and that's what happens when you push on. You see how much drier it is on parts of the track, but where it's not sheltered from the wind and the rain, it is actually still pretty slippery. And the difference now, Harry, is if you do put a wheel off the line, then suddenly there's much less grip rather than a tiny bit less as there would be in the dry.
Yeah, and look, they're coming up on the back markers. I'm sure they'll get out of the way.
Well, he can't now, Ekblom, because this is 11 and 12. Ekblom's basically going to have to drive through the pits to stay out of the way or go hard immediately right.
That would have been good to have seen what was going on there. But so that's where Benani found a bit of time. That's where the second came from.
Yeah. So now, okay, he's got a bit of ground on Tomo. Ekblom's going to crawl to a halt here, let the leaders go through. It's unfortunate for Tomo that Benani probably isn't going to get a penalty for that. He's actually going to get an advantage. He didn't deliberately straight line the chicane. He just missed his braking and skated out wide. Huff and Mikulits are going away from Montero and leaving Thiago to kind of wrestle with Lopez all on his own. And it's going to come down to wrestling soon, isn't it? Because Lopez is about to join battle really seriously now.
It is. He's right on the back of Montero, but it's tough, isn't it? Lopez doesn't need it. He doesn't need to get involved in a tangle there.
Nope, he doesn't need to get involved in a tangle, but again, he's just at another fastest race lap. So he is right up behind Thiago.
Yeah, if you can get close enough to Thiago to give him a couple of little taps like we saw with Coronel, just to let him know he's there. Nothing sinister, but then that'll certainly focus Thiago's mind. And
the problem is, when he gave Tom those taps in the dry, there was grip to hold it. In the wet, there won't be. And if he puts Thiago off, he's in the pits. Lopez is going for a drive-through. And if he doesn't, all hell is going to break loose.
You could give him a little love tap there, that'd be okay.
I have to say, actually, I'm slightly surprised there's been no investigation into the starting procedure of Lopez. We've seen drivers penalised before this season for starting out of their grid spots.
Yeah, I mean, the way drive-through penalties have been dished out, you'd have thought that would have been a drive-through penalty, but really not.
I mean, coming down like confetti. Well, you know, again, maybe it's that invisible car, the one that didn't get penalised for holding somebody up on a fast lap in Q3 in Slovakia.
Montero getting the hammer down there, fastest second to 2 of anybody again, so he is definitely feeling the pressure there.
He needs to get away, doesn't he?
Look at Muller's car wandering around on the straight there. He wasn't even in the braking zone there, but that just shows obviously his rear wet tyres are starting to go off there and it's shuffling around on the blocks.
Norby again right up behind Rob Huff. That won't be doing much for Huffy's demeanour. Why is Norby right up by Jaxie? Well, he just is. Right on the, not gearbox, but exhaust pipe. Now here again comes Thompson. He's got the bit between his teeth. He's also got the bit between her teeth.
He's also got Dominic Rayner hanging over the wall waving at him, I think.
Come on, Tomo, come on, Tomo. Well, you know, it's another good racing performance from James Thompson. A car he still doesn't know well. He's never driven it in the wet up until today. He has now. Hasn't driven it on a street circuit up until today. He has now. And hasn't started on the front row of the grid with it until today, but he has now. But, you know, the hope is that in some of the other races that clash for the team boss, René Munich, he might get called back again to drive the car once more. On board with Norbert Michelitz in second place, right behind our race leader, Rob Huff. Lap 20 of 22. So there is 1 to go at the line this time round.
They're obviously struggling
with 2 to go. Can't count.
With tyre temperatures now, because see them moving offline, and obviously they're going around a car there, but you could see Michelitz before popping out and aiming for puddles to try and cool his tyres down.
Now, Fredrik Ekblom and Ted Björk have both been lapped by the leaders, the Volvos of 15th and 16th. There's 1 or 2 things going on here. Either they can't cope with the wet, which we would have noticed, I think, before in some of our previous wet races, or did they actually gamble on slicks on both cars? Or a mixed setup, or something. They are so far behind.
Yeah, it's a good point.
It's almost impossible that there's not something really fundamental wrong with the setup of the car.
Yeah, it's a good point, unless they've both just been misfortunate and had had accidents. I mean, you'd think it would be a bit of a crazy move to gamble on both cars with such a gamble with that amount of water coming out of the sky at the start of the race.
Well, they're both, yeah, maybe they're both, you know, they're both a lap behind. Maybe they just went with a setup change for the wet that just doesn't work. Don't forget, they've not run that car in the wet on a street circuit and not on one with brand new tarmac. So it's all a bit of a lick your finger and stick it in the air, best engineering guess, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a bit. You can still see Lopez. Look at the back end of it moving around. It doesn't look anywhere near as stable as the Hondas do.
Now, there's another battle that we need to know about, and it's not this one. This is John Philippi and Ferenc Fittja for 13th place. It's the battle for 5th place, because Gabriele Tarquini has just set another fastest race lap. He's just taken another 6/10 out of Ivan Muller. He is now 1.68 seconds behind Muller for 5th. Tarquini is absolutely flying. And Ivan and Gabriele, we know, have got a very pleasant history together. If Gabriele comes sending it down the inside on the final lap, he might well get that 5th position. Thompson, meanwhile, still attacking Bernani. Gap here was 1.38 at the end of the last lap. It is definitely inside that. But we are running out of corners now for Thompson to try and make anything. Leaders are on the last lap, and the battle for 8th place is just about to start the last lap. Huff at the chicane, turn 5 and 6. Norby right behind. Honda started 1, 2, 3. Lopez broke up that trio, then made an error, and Thiago Montero got back up into 3rd place. He is starting to creep away from Lopez, who normally doesn't relent until after the checkered flag, but it does look as though he's going, do you know what? All right, I'm done with this. 4th place, that'll do.
I think so. I think he's conceded defeat, and it's all over by the shouting now, isn't it?
Although, you see the way he pitched it into there with the tail stepping out, I'm not sure he ever concedes defeat. He may just be going, OK, unless you go off, I don't have a way of getting by you without incurring a penalty. Thiago in 3rd place, Tarquini, another fastest race lap behind Ivan Muller. That might be the photo finish, but it is going to be a Honda 1, 2, 3. Rob Huff, Norbert Michelit, and Thiago Montero. 1, 2, 3, a podium sweep for Honda.
What a boy! 1, 2, 3!
Well, here comes Muller and Tarquini down at the checkered flag. The gap between them, Muller hung on to 4th by half a second ahead of Tarquini, 6/10 in fact. Ugo Valente should be 7th, he is. And Mehdi Bernani versus James Thompson. Tomo not going to get close enough to take away 8th position. Bernani is the top Yokohama driver, top WTCC trophy driver. Thompson in 2nd, Shilton in 3rd, Coronel in 4th. But between him and that position, Nicky Katzberg, and then John Philippi and Ferenc Fittja. Fittja not trying anything silly as they head to the line. Last couple of corners. Philippi should have this under control, as long as he doesn't clout that curb on the inside too hard. Fittja's making a drag race of it, though, isn't he? He's really trying to get him all the way to the checkered flag, but the flag beats him to it. Well, Fittja, the last unlapped driver. Ted Björk and Fredrik Ekblom in the Volvos, both a lap behind. And Gregoire de Moustier did not complete the race.
Nice little photo down the back straight here. One on the left, one on the right. I'll go in the middle.
Rob Huff there organising a photo for the Honda yearbook, I think. I think he must be able to talk to the other guys there, or he's talking to his engineer, but he said, I'll go in the middle, you go on the left, Thiago, and Norbert, you go on my right. We'll get a great photograph.
Yep. And Lopez and Tarquini get in the background, but it is a triumphant main race in Marrakech for Honda. And Lopez have more than their rivals. The other winners, of course, are Mehdi Bernani, Thiago Montero, and today Tom Coronel. Coronel winning the opening race and struggling home all but last in race 2. What a difference the weather made to his car. I wonder what it made to the Hondas.
And Rob Huff is the winner of the main race here in Marrakech. Congratulations, what a race.
Yeah, I mean, so difficult. I mean, we've never driven here in the wet. First time we've ever been here, and the car's been great all weekend. Can't thank the Castro Honda Yas Racing boys enough. Fantastic job, wet, dry. We've conquered this place, and we needed that race 2 win. Pole position, race win, P6 in race 1. Brilliant weekend.
Fantastic. Well done, Rob.
Yeah, can't get better than that, can you? Pole and race win.
12th career pole, 29th career World Touring Car Championship victory, his second of the season. He is second in the all-time standings, incidentally, to Ivan Muller. And in third place, now 5 races behind, is Jose Maria Lopez. Lopez with 2 World Championship titles, though, to Huff's 1. Will either of them lift this year's crown? Will Thiago Monteiro claim his first World Championship title? Well, Montero's still second in the standings. Huff moves up from 4th to 3rd, ahead of Mehdi Banani, and Norby moves up from 6th to 4th, ahead of Muller and Banani. Muller now down from 5th position to 6th position in the standings. Never count him out, but it's a massive mountain to climb.
It is, for this early in the season. That's a big steep hill that he's looking at. He looks like he's standing at the foot of the Atlas Mountains and looking at the snowy hill ahead of him.
It really does. So a main race for the first time ever in Marrakech.